So here's a very practical example. So for example, I know people that during like the Black Lives Matter riots would say things like abolish the police. If you are a privileged person, you have a responsibility to advocate for political change that would benefit the oppressed. And one of those policies, let's say, is to abolish the police, right? And so from my perspective, I think, okay, that's insanity. And I have an urge, I'm epistemically secure enough to say anyone who's advocating for abolish the police is a idiot and needs to be told that to their face and push back on, because it has real consequences, right? You cut away the police force in poor areas, that has consequences. And, we've seen what that does. However, there are people who are sympathetic to the abolish the police perspective. I was talking about this with someone who I respect a lot a couple days ago, where it's like abolish the police means like reform the police. It's kind of like a negotiating tactic. We're going to put this extreme stance to kind of get halfway there, demilitarize the police or something like that. And it's like, okay, I buy that, but I still struggle with like me being a rich, white, privileged male. If I'm really advocating on behalf of the oppressed, I should be calling out those people saying abolish the police and calling them morons to their face in front of people to let let people know that that's a stupid idea, that's a dangerous idea. But on the other hand, if I do that, then I'm sacrificing my epistemic openness to people who are like, no, I just like that phrase, or I understand that phrase because it means something else. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on maybe not that? Yeah, not that example in particular. It doesn't have to be abolish. No,
but it's just a hard concept. How you'd navigate that. I think the only way I can think to navigate that would be, my suspicion would be that there's different people with different agendas who are saying that line. You've mentioned two major groups there. There's people that are saying, you'll never get the whole way there, but you have a big slogan and, that gets you along the journey. But I want to know, because that's not necessarily going to be, let's say there's a person who's a Black Lives Matter protester and they're saying that. I'd want to get into their shoes and be why. It's like, what is your experience of the world that seems like a good idea to you? Like, what is going on? And it's probably that they've had such appalling experiences, or they know there's so many anecdotes from people in their lives about appalling experiences that they've had with the police. And it's, how do you reform? It's like the Gotham City thing. Like, how do you reform a thing that's so broken?
Right.
Can you fix something that is so broken? And if that's their perspective, then you go, well, okay, it's not as simple as not defunding the police. Now maybe defunding or it's not even, you weren't even saying defund, you were saying abolish.
Right.
If you're talking about abolishing the police, what's the alternative? You know what I mean? Because that seems like a naive, almost like a childlike response, like kind of like John Lennon's Imagine, like, can't we all just get along? Imagine a world where there was no police. What would Sting do for work? No.
Yeah, right.
But like, imagining a world without the police, it's like, okay, it's a simple dream because of what the oppression you've experienced and the discrimination you've experienced and that so many people in your life have experienced. But it's probably just an angry voice, and this is, again, this would be my interpretation of it because I haven't studied what people actually believe around this. But I would take it as a sort of a knee-jerk reaction of like, we need to shut this thing down because there's no way of reforming it. And you go, okay, yeah, but what's the alternative? Because you can't just destroy something. Because every time there's a revolution, if you look at the French Revolution, if you look at the October Revolution for the founding of the Soviet Republic or the Soviet Union, then there's a massive amount of bloodshed. Like, if you're going to have a revolution, if you destroy something, then it takes a while for something solid to rebuild. And yeah, so it's
you got to understand.
What's the alternative?
Right. And in dialogue with one-on-one, I can talk to virtually anybody. And someone who's like that, but okay, let's have a dialogue because this isn't about other people. This is about just exploring the idea. But like, for example, during the Black Lives Matter riots, I had people. My friends were posting on social media all this stuff. Like, if you voted for Trump, you're a fascist. If you don't believe in abolish the police, you're just ignorant. And I would see people who have common sense, like good people by my estimation, who had common sense, be like, all lives matter. I don't like, obviously Black lives matter, but everyone's life matters and stuff. And to hear people be like, no, that is not only wrong, you're a bad person for saying that. It was people who are smart abusing their intelligence to beat down on people who didn't, have the capacity to go through and hear all these abstract ideas of why, well, abolish the police is really this super progressive idea, and all cops are bastards doesn't really mean all. It's all this word language games, and it felt
also,
to me
is that the correct forum for it? Because, and this is something you were saying, that like, if we want to change the world, then you should probably start with individuals changing the way they interact with the information. I don't think that that's enough, because I think that the system, the way social media is set up to increase polarity, and having like the angry reaction on Facebook, because of the way that's set up, the worst who are filled with passion and intensity are the ones you're always going to get on your newsfeed.